So, Andy, things are rolling along. You're building your business, you're figuring it out, you're making something of yourself. And then a horrible incident happened to you in, I think it was June of 2004 in Springfield, Missouri. What happened?
Well, I was part of owning a business is usually you have to have other jobs. And one of the jobs I had was I worked at a bar. And where I worked was about a block away from where I lived. And I was walking home from work one night with some friends. And we got into I wouldn't say we got into, but we were harassed by this guy driving by. And I was walking with my friends, and the girl that I was with, she was Mexican. She was very tan. It was middle of summer. And he yelled out some racial slurs and then ended up parking his car right in the path of where we were walking. And then we had a verbal altercation. I ended up getting stabbed in the face 3 times. And then once in the back. I had 160 stitches in my face. When all was said and done, the last thing I remember riding to the hospital was before I passed out was the nurse or the EMT in the ambulance basically getting hysterical, saying that she couldn't stop the bleeding. I thought for sure I was going to die, and obviously I didn't die. I woke up a few hours later. I was in the ER. They had stitched up my face. Yeah, it was a violent stabbing. And, I'm lucky to be alive. I got stabbed, right here, went through all the way through my face. And then it's hard to see because of my beard, but on my jawline on this side, and then once in my back. And, my face was swollen up, the size of a grapefruit for the better part of a year. I have zero feeling in this side of my face, even to this day. All the nerves are gone. It affects how I smile. But I've come to terms with it. And it was a very difficult time in my life as a 22, 23-year-old man trying to run a business and a retail business. Because when your face it gets disfigured, people do one of two things. They either look you right in the face and they say, man, what happened to your face? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to curse on this show or not.
You are, yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Well, they look at you and they say, man, what the fuck happened to your face? Or they look at the ground and they act like you're not even there. And that part of it was very difficult for me. Being a young man, I wasn't married. I didn't really have a girlfriend. I thought my life was over in that regard. I went through serious depression because multiple times a day, I'm having people walk into my business and say those things to me, either stare right at me or look away. I can remember one particular instance when I was at a store and I couldn't even get the person's attention because they refused to look at my face. And it taught me a lot. The main thing it taught me was that when you guys see someone who's different, when you guys see someone who might be disabled or disfigured or handicapped, don't look away. Address them like a normal human, because that feeling of people not seeing you or not ignoring you was probably the most hurtful thing of the whole situation. Wow. So I'm just going to put that out there for any of you guys who struggle with that. People would much rather you come up to them and treat them like a normal human than pretend like they're not there. So that was a very difficult thing for me to deal with. I was a different person then than I am now. I struggled with suicidal thoughts tremendously. I got heavily into drinking. I was drinking every single day at that point. And for a year or so, it was really like, it wasn't a matter of if I was going to end my life, it was when and how. And so I spent that year kind of thinking about like what I was going to do and how I was going to disappear and make it the least painful on everybody else. And it was just very, very, very dark time. And one of the days that I woke up, I went to, this is like 10:30 in the morning. I went to the grocery store because I didn't have any alcohol and I was going to go get some beer. And I went to the store to get alcohol, and I was pushing my cart down the aisle with my head down. And I came to the end of the aisle, and you know how sometimes people will be coming at a perpendicular way. And I bumped carts with this person at the end of the aisle. And I looked up, and it was this smaller person. And the reason I say person is because I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman because, and it ended up being a woman, but I couldn't tell because her face was completely burnt off. And I mean like gone. Where your nose is, there was, two little holes, and I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. The only reason I could tell it was a woman was because of her voice when she spoke. And so I hit her cart, I looked at her, and I was like kind of shocked. And she looked at me like real serious, and she goes, "Dude, what the fuck happened to your face?" And dude, we both started dying laughing. And in that instant, we had like a 10 or 15 minute conversation, and we talked about how she had gotten to be where she was. And what had happened to her was she had been in a small plane crash, and she had lost her leg, and she had lost her whole family. She was her lone survivor of this crash, and she had been third-degree burned her entire body. And
oh my God.
We had a real 10-minute conversation that was probably the most profound conversation I ever had in my entire life on this planet. I still question, if that was like an angel or if that was like what that was, because I walked out of that store with a new perspective. And the perspective was that, one, things could be a lot worse. Two, they aren't that bad. And three, what's the good things that happened to me from this? And, what I realized in business, we had a hard time. This is the first thing that I noticed that was good. Okay. So, when you're a small business person, you have a hard time being remembered because you're lumped in with the group and everybody sees you as a nobody. And one of the things that happened after I got stabbed and my face was disfigured was that people started remembering me. So, instead of us going to a trade show and saying, "Hey, do you know Andy and Chris from Supplement Superstore?" It was, and they would say, "Oh, no, we don't know them." And they could follow it up now, and they would, because people would tell me, "No, Andy, the guy with the he got stabbed, with the face." Mm-hmm. And so I started seeing that as a positive thing. I started seeing that as an advantage that we had that no one else had. And I chose to go that perspective. And my life changed after that. It really did. I went from being completely depressed, completely frustrated, completely demoralized, no motivation, the poor me attitude, to someone who didn't tolerate that for myself anymore. And while it wasn't an instant permanent transition, it showed me enough of the light that I was able to pursue that and grow in that way from that point forward. I still had struggles. I still had dark times. I've still gone through very difficult times, but that was a time that showed me that no matter how bad that it gets, there's always a good side to it. And so, I chose to see the proper perspective there, and I think it served me pretty well. But that was a very difficult time. And I would say, honestly, looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was literally the best thing that ever happened to me because I was able to work through something that was extremely difficult. I learned a lot of lessons about people. I learned a lot of lessons about myself. But the most important thing I learned was the power of perspective. And the perspective is a choice. We can choose to see the bad things, or we can choose to see the benefits of any situation. And it's hard pressed to find a situation that doesn't benefit us in some way, or at the very least, benefit other people around us in some way. And so that's what happened.
If you're like me, you're growing more and more concerned about the future. The market's all over the place. Inflation is at its highest level in 40 years. Interest rates are skyrocketing. Market experts are using terms like recession, economic hurricane, and unprecedented. If you want to protect your future, call a precious metal dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by buying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. All it takes to get started is a short phone call, and they will have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside your IRA or 401k. And they keep it simple. They're the highest rated firm in the country with an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. And as an exclusive offer for our fans, if you call them right now, they're going to give you up to $1,500 of free silver and a free safe on qualifying orders. So don't wait. Call now. Call 866-518-2955. That's 866-518-2955, or just text Megyn. That's MEGYN to 65532. Again, call 866-518-2955 or text Megyn to 65532. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.